So we're based in Tasmania, Australia, and Tasmania's a bit different to the mainland of Australia. It doesn't get as hot at all, and it can snow down here. It gets quite cold in the winter, and it can be quite long winters. We've got really beautiful views here overlooking the Tamar River. Kept most of the windows on this side outlooking the river, and the Tamar Valley is well known for its beautiful produce and its wine. It's just a really beautiful setting. We're on a paddock hill, and then there's just bush all surrounding us, and then there's a few houses around. We bought the bus in 2013. At the time, we were married with our first baby on the way. We were both working and having lots of stuff, and the stress of that, and can you live simply? Can you just downsize things and then just sort of live on a big block and then be more a part of the outdoors and that kind of thing as well? And then buying a bus actually ticked a lot of boxes for us, and we were able to put it on some family land and with ideas to maybe down the track build, but we just focused on the bus and giving something a go.
We've got this 1985 Volvo B10 ML, so it's an articulated bus that we picked up off Gumtree. And we had to move it out of the way and put some foundation down first because it was fairly wet, soggy paddock in wintertime. And then we decided we wanted it pretty level. So we got the bottom of the windows all level, so the bus is sort of chocked up and in place, and it's pretty much hasn't moved since then. And unfortunately, when we first got the floor in, I put the wooden floor in and one of the hatches leaked. So hence we had to put a sort of roof over the top. We decided to keep as many windows as we could open because we've got the view of the river this way. So I had to put fly screens on those upper opening windows. The back of the bus, there's an emergency exit we had to put in because being such a long bus, and we've got a wood fire inside, so we had to have a way of getting out of the bus. It's pretty much set up like an RV. We've got the 15 amp power. Originally it had a composting toilet in there. We had that in there for 5 or 6 years, which worked really well, but in terms of servicing that in the winter, it became a bit difficult of changing the chambers over and the actual composting process not working properly. So we ended up putting a flushing toilet in using the existing septic that is on the property already. It's my family's property. They live just up the road, so that's made it really good in terms of having access to the place. All the plumbing's just straight underneath the bus. I was starting the bus pretty much once a month when we first got it, just to keep the motor ticking over. But then one day it didn't start, and so we decided to just leave it. That can be a problem later on if we ever need to move it. We have a lot of Australian wildlife here. We had a lot of echidnas, possums, kangaroos, blue-tongued lizards, and a range of birds. We're quite private here. There's not a lot of houses around. It's just a farm that used to function probably about 40 years ago, and since then it's just been for residential purposes. See on this side, this is sort of the southern side of the bus. In Tasmania, we want to be facing north as much as possible. So we do get the morning sun on this side of the bus. We've got a beautiful view this way, but we have most of the sun sort of this way. So we kind of had to compromise a little bit on the solar aspect of it because the view is beautiful. The articulated section here, well, we put it on as much of an angle as we could just to try and get sort of that nicer view of the river from that side. I didn't want to put the flue through the roof, so we sort of brought it out that window there. And our setup is just a basic setup with instant gas hot water. And you can see here too, this extra room that we put on later on, probably about a year and a half after we first got the bus. Having 2 kids, a toddler and a newborn, we needed a bit of space for prams and things like that. So this was built a bit later as a pod or a mud room. If we come in, have a look at this extra room we put on. This was built basically just like a normal stud frame. Again, using recycled materials, secondhand timber and cheap stuff from hardware stores that were either reject or Tasmanian available materials. We put in a washing machine in here just so that we had still access to get all our clothes done. We wanted it to be on a nice level. We could just walk up into the bus just at the bottom stair of the bus. So if we come through into here, we're walking into where you would normally walk in to get onto the bus, and this would be where the driver would be seated. We decided to get rid of the steering wheel so that we had sort of an office space that we could use.
I love having an office, and I'm really big on writing, drawing, painting, all that sort of thing. So as much as it may not have made much sense, I had said to Nick, I really want an office space. So we put this in, and you can see out to the river there. You can open that window up and let in a beautiful breeze. And sometimes people have sort of asked, like, why did you cover up the front windows? And the view out here is really just a big old shed, which is really cool. But we know that if we were to ever move this bus again, this can be all pulled down and taken down, and you've still got all the controls for the bus and everything right under there that you can actually see. I love all the timber and then having this space like you're sitting at the bus to drive, but it's actually a bit of an office space, which is really nice. And lots of people who now stay love sitting here and doing lots of drawing and painting. And we've had actually lots of beautiful drawings that have been left for us that I'm actually framing up slowly.
We really wanted the bus to feel like a cabin and not feel like an RV. So I really didn't want a lot of overhead kind of space. I wanted it to be open walls and be able to see far into the distance. In terms of materials, just finding things that worked at the time. For example, the drawer fronts in the kitchen was another bargain that I found online. Was having a wedding at their property and they needed to get rid of a whole bunch of timber that they had. The bench tops, we ended up just going with just a basic finger jointed top from Bunnings. The ceiling is lined in a VJ lining that we got from a timber mill on one of their yearly sort of auctions or specials. So it's sort of a mixture of Tasmanian hardwood and some pine. We bought like a second-hand fridge, second-hand range hood, second-hand microwave. We decided to use and support Australian businesses that are making products that are good for the environment as well. We sort of started looking at buses after thinking about shipping containers and thinking about making the tiny house on a trailer. So we started looking at buses and we were looking at this sort of more of the coach style buses. We got onto Gumtree, which is I suppose the equivalent of Craigslist, and we found a fleet of buses that had been bought at auction. And Emma said to me, ask them if they've got a Bendy-Bus.
Because you're looking at normal length ones and they were 6,000. And then I said, oh, we'll just see if they've got a big long one, thinking more space and all that sort of thing. And then there was one that was there, same price. So I was like, oh, well, let's go down and check that out.
This guy had bought them at auction quite cheap, but he had passed away and his daughter was put these up for sale. So she just wanted to get rid of them. So we went and had a look. And the first thing when we first walked into the bus, we noticed it's a flat floor and I'm quite tall, I'm 6'2", so I didn't have to bend down at all. And that was like the first thing, is like, and it felt nice and open. It was almost like instant, wasn't it? We were both like, this is awesome.
But we did get to a point after 2 years where I just felt like I was done with doing life in here with little kids and found it quite tricky. And I found it hard being away from town with the access of all that. And so we made the decision to move out, but we're sort of like, what are we going to do next with this place? And we had a friend recommend it to us to put it on Airbnb, and I was like, oh, what's the go with that? I kind of was like, who would be interested in that? That was just not on our radar at all. And then we thought, oh, well, let's give it a go. And then 8 years later, it's still running and doing well. And then we love making the most of it and coming here, and we stay at Christmas time and we have friends come and go and family, and love that we can provide a space for people. I love people coming and staying and then messaging me and talking to us and just saying they're so inspired by it. It inspires them to want to try and do different things. We had 2 amazing years in here that had its ups and its downs. We all love coming back here when we do.
Wait, stop, hold on a second. This is not a brand deal. This is just about my new website, mobiledwellings.media. Type it into your browser or click the link below and you will find a marketplace with curated rigs for sale. If you're not in the market to buy a rig, don't worry about it. These are all gonna be dope. Check them out. Just do a little bit of window shopping. Great photos, great descriptions, just for fun. Also, I've got a gear shop now where you can see all of the items that I install into builds like this and the items that I recommend: solar panels, inverters, mini splits, and more. And finally, I've been through this process several times, and if you happen to be building a rig, I'd be honored to help you with yours as well. For a monthly fee, I'll just be on the phone with you. Just text me when you need me, give me a call. That's called schoolie support. You can see all these things at mobiledwellings.media. Back to the show.
This has probably actually been one of the best kitchens that we've had. We got to be able to design it and work with the things that Nick could find. And I wanted as much bench space as possible, and it just this big flow through, because I knew that kids would be milling around, People would be walking through into here where the dining area is, and then you'd be sitting and eating down there. I wanted a full-sized fridge that could fit in here, and I do a lot of cooking from scratch. We had the big wheel arches that we had to work with in the design. Basically, the wheel arches are under here, which is the sink, and then here we put basically a great big pantry, and so you open that up, and in there is actually all this shelving, and I could fit so much in there. It was amazing. I've got a full oven as well, cooking a lot with that. We try to use the barbecue and things like that outside in the warmer months, and then we have this here, and we also do have a stovetop on the fire, so through the winters I would have stews and soups and all that bubbling away, which I just loved. Just having a 2 sink space, because you're constantly washing dishes as well, and then just all this space here to be able to just set up and be cooking and all that sort of thing. This is actually made by a really good friend of mine, and then just filling it with all these things. They're from op shops and secondhand, or things that I've just bought around the place. Because we have lots of different people coming and going, and we'd invite people out and love having people over. So just plenty of mugs and cups so that with guests staying now. I've got cookbooks that I love that are actually from Tasmania and from friends as well. I'd often have chairs here and the kids would sit up here at the bench. I still wanted a little bit of a bench so I could sort of be working here, and then the 2 boys would be here and I'd be feeding them and giving them what they need, or they might be drawing and occupied so that I can be getting stuff done. We fully decked out the bus with everything that we loved as a family, and weren't thinking, oh, this is going to be on Airbnb, so I have to think about what guests would love, and it's sort of keeping up with being what's attractive or modern at the time. I'm glad that wasn't even on my radar. I filled it with the things that I love. It worked really well in here as a family with such a good sized kitchen. This is the dining area, and we intentionally got a table like this so that it could flip down, and that worked really well, because I think with having little ones, you want them nearby all the time. You need to be watching them all the time, and I did appreciate this small space because you've got less to clean, less to manage, there's less stuff around, and you can be near your babies rather than then wandering off into bigger parts of houses, which worked really well in that season of life. Then more drawers here. We put as many drawers in as we could because there's obviously lots of stuff that comes with family life. And then we got this beautiful fire that I love, and it really heats up the bus so well in the winter. It was amazing to be in here, and then the wild weather was outside and looking out over frosts and things like that. It was just so beautiful. We have 2 big couches in here. I thought about these couches so that they could be sort of together but not completely face to face. They can be as single beds as well, and then also we can lift up the couches, and then there's more space under there for just all the things required for life. We chose to put these blinds in. I thought about sort of the pull along curtains, but I felt like they'd take up a lot of space. And then we just decided on these blinds that can just go up and be sort of out of the way, because most of the time these are open, and I just love all the natural light flooding into this place, just to feel like you're part of the outside even though you're in this nice cozy space. So we have this little cozy nook kind of space that I remember me and Nick processing and thinking through, what are we going to do with this area? Because this was this metal plate that moves around. We decided to make this the lounge room space and have this really nice cozy space that you can come into, and just even the timber that Nick has done around here makes it this little kind of nook that you come into and that you settle into, and just really cozy. We decided to put this little platform in just behind the couch, which is really nice. So you can sit there, chill out, put your cuppa there, and then this was a space to have, we've got magazines up here, and we've just got a little sound system so that we can just listen to good music or podcasts and things like that, which is really nice. And this is just all beautiful timber, and this is the same corrugated iron as over here, just to sort of all match things.
We have just normal 240 volt power here, so it plugs into the 15 amp cable, and it's basically, we didn't have to worry about batteries. We figured we're parking it right next to an old shed which already had power in it, so we thought there's no point us going solar and doing all that when we've got power right there. When we get to this section here, a lot of people when they come and visit, they look at this section here and think, oh wow, how did you do that? This is basically off-cut plywood pieces from doing the walls in the bus. And the articulated section has got 3 ribs, 3 metal ribs, and they sort of go like a piano accordion as such. And so there's a metal rib there, there and there. And so I literally just got the offcuts, started here, screwed one on, put another one above it, and just the way that we sat the bus in that kind of sort of V shape, it just started making these cool shapes like an armadillo sort of armour. So that worked out really well. It's really great that these bus windows, the original bus windows, had these sliding sections at the top. In terms of ventilation for the bus, being such a long, narrow space, we were a little bit worried about airflow, particularly in the summer months. Just finding that we could pull one of these across on this side and one of these across on this side with the predominant wind sort of coming this way, it was really well ventilated. One of the other things we did notice though in summertime, when the sun's going down over the hills there, this did warm up a lot, and there were those days where even with the windows open it was quite hot just because of that radiant heat. So these windows in this front section, we got them tinted, and that reduced that radiant heat like massively. I've got a bit of a background building. I'm a woodwork teacher, so most of the work was done by me. It pretty much took the whole year. From the point of starting to moving in would have been about 9 months or so. The bus was about $6,000. We tried to just recycle, upcycle stuff as much as possible and get things cheap. So I'd say that under 40,000 Australian dollars to do the project. And there was a few Pinterest photos that we'd seen of like a nice little wood fire with the timber ceiling, timber floors, and that was kind of the vibe we were after. So a lot of it was planned, but a lot of it was also just fluking it. I got to the point where I kind of had a list, like big jobs, medium-sized jobs and small jobs, and I had that same sort of thought of I've just got to go and do something. If I've got an hour that I can work on it, then I can go down, I can get 2 of those small jobs ticked off. And it was interesting, once I sort of changed my mindset a bit, I was able to make good progress, and that motivation sort of got us through.
Okay, so we're coming to the second part of the bus now, and this has the bedrooms and the bathroom. And we ended up deciding to have basically a walk-through space to everything, and then we could have this bench space and then all these drawers here for just all storage, which we all need. And so when the boys were younger, we'd have a change table here where we'd be coming and changing them through the day. They'd have all their stuff here ready to go. And then they had this little room in here that had a cot and a hammock that they would sleep in, and their little toys, and this was just their little space. And now that they're bigger, there's bunk beds in here, and they still love coming in here and staying in here, and sometimes top and tail. And then they've got shelving here for all their special bits and pieces. So we move into the bathroom here, which is just that little bit separate from this bedroom. And then we have the toilet in here, and so you can sort of open that door up and have a little bit of privacy, or you can just shut the door altogether and you've got just a completely private, separate toilet in there, which works really well. And then we've got hooks everywhere. We just used wood sticks so that towels can be hung. There's room for all that, and they can be drying in here or put outside. And again, lots of drawer space with just all the things that you need. A beautiful big bench with all solid timber. And then just this little bathroom area where you can wash your teeth. You've got a good mirror here, and then this full-size shower that worked really well. There's plenty of room for the door to open up and to stand here and dry yourself. You can grab your towel off the hooks. I had a whole feel for what I wanted. I wanted people to come in here and just feel at home, relaxed, really homely. I loved cubbies as a child. I always was thinking about cool homes as a kid from a cubby perspective as a child, and imagining all these cool spaces. And then from a practical perspective, it's been amazing having a passive income that has given me more time to be at home with my children and not be working as much as a nurse. So I've certainly appreciated that enormously. The money that we make goes back into maintaining this, and then for us to be able to do life with our children. It's worked so brilliantly. It's actually worked better than we expected. Yeah. And that it's provided us that, like, we'll never regret that, ever. So we have the main bedroom in here, and I have lots of clothes because I do lots of op shopping. So I had this filled up with clothes, and then we've got drawers on each side. And then for different periods of time as well with the babies, we had a little kind of gate across here, and this was a bed for one of the babies because then I could easily get to them through the night. I could hear them, everything, they were right there. I love this space because it's kind of like there's walls there, and then you kind of come into this bed space, which is just covering this whole back area. You can lift the whole bed up, so there's heaps of storage under there. The kids used to play under there when they were little. Now we just have this beautiful big space with lots of light coming in, and then there's even room on either side of that where we'd have books piled up. We've got the charging station and things like that. And then we have this door that you can open right up to the outside. So that's also a way to get out if there's a fire, but also the kids could go up and down the ladder. We can go up and down the ladder. There were lots of beautiful summer evenings where we'd open that up, and it was just such a really nice cozy space. I've had some of the best sleeps in here on this bed. We had a few people sort of like, oh, why are you doing that? That doesn't sort of make sense or doesn't sort of line up with sort of that really safe avenue to go down. And sometimes I think you need to take risk to then see where things can go, and things can turn out better than you expect. And it also depends on how you view things as well. I'd just be saying, go for it. If something's really on your heart and you're constantly thinking about it. I do a lot of, would I regret not giving that a go if I'm on my deathbed? And the worst thing that you find out is like, oh, that didn't work. Or you might have to step back a bit and then start again in a different way, or things just turn out better than you expected. So if you want to come and stay here and stay at the bus home, we're on Airbnb. We're based in Launceston, Tasmania, Australia.